its way through the countryside of Southern Virginia. This beautiful 3.2-mile strip of asphalt has been around since 1957. But now, for the second time in 3 years, the Virginia International Raceway is home to the SCCA National Championship Runoffs.
We have had 25 races unfold here at this 59th running of the SCCA National Championship Runoffs that has been presented by Mazda. We have one to go, and it is called P2 or Prototype 2. It is rainy here this day here, this final day of competition at Virginia International Raceway. And I'll tell you what, one of the things that I wanted to make mention of here as we are entering into our last race is this was the first of the motorsports resorts when Connie Nyholm and her partner bought this track after it had become completely overrun many years ago in the late 90s, converted it into this resort, building the lodge, building the restaurants, building all of the physical plant around here, and one of the best places to stay at a racetrack, the villas here, is absolutely something else. And Kerrigan Smith and his crew on the op side of things have just worked wonders, improving it every year. So looking forward to coming back here next year. And for all of that and the great facilities here, Larry McLeod alongside here. The main reason we like coming back here is the track that you're going to take us around right now.
Facilities are beautiful, but this track is legendary. This is going to be a fun one. It's in the rain. Don't get to run that too often. As you go down to turn one, it's a very different line. They're going to have to find some grip down there. Downhill braking, come around. Hopefully by the opening lap, they've got things sorted out through 3 into 4A, that left hook. Go down through the infamous snake. Kind of goes up and down and left to right all at the same time. They'll go roaring under the bridge just off the side of where our TV's compound is set up, and they'll then start climbing the climbing S's. And it's going to be 100-plus miles an hour going up that way, and then around the South Bend where they'll aim themselves toward the old oak tree. It's not there anymore, but they better find the brakes. We know that the P1 guys had troubles. P2 guys at least have the right tires on, because if they don't, it's going to be a lot of trouble getting down Madison Avenue, the long back straight all the way to the top of the hill. Top speeds will be trapped up there. They'll come down the roller coaster, 130-some-odd elevation feet to drop all the way down to the infamous Hog Pen, turn 17, for another run down this long front straight.
And all of that unfolds in those 17 turns and just a tick over 3.25 miles. This is something special indeed. And for the last time here, let's get down to the third member of our broadcast team, Hayward Wagner.
The weather is here. I wish you were beautiful. Jimmy Buffett said it best. Last race of the weekend, lots of carbon bits, lots of high horsepower, lots of high revs. Everybody is on the full wets. Nobody's running into inters. One thing I did note that was interesting, if you look down the grid, most of these cars have vents on the fenders, except this one. I don't know if this was a wet day decision or not, but they've covered those vents up. Might be driver visibility, might just be a setup change, but everybody's doing it a little bit different here in P1.
Well, you throw anything at it you can, right? When you get conditions like this, that might just make your car work that little bit better. Thank you so much, Hayward. Just a great job this year once again, and this year down in the elements for the duration, and elements has been the real key here. It's been something else. But these cars, big thing about these cars is the aero. They
and all of them
stick
slightly
massively.
different. Hayward already pointed out how the events there over the wheels tend to be a little bit different. Each one of these, a lot of them are the store WF1 chassis, but each one of them, you look at the rear wing, the end plates, the front wing, just a little bit different in how they try to make their aero, even the vertical plane down across the engine cover. The last two cars there on this grid are going to be very interesting. One of them, Richard Colburn, in a Nintendo, one of the old sports racers there, and the other one rolling off, I believe, was Robert Iverson, who qualified up in 5th. He has switched cars. We'll get to that story in a bit, but he had a bit of a car fire earlier in the week. Switching cars, that is a Radical SR3 on Hancooks. And if he had more seat time in that car, could be something. This is his first time seeing track in that thing. We'll see what it is, but it could be a very good rain car.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. And because of that change, he will start at the back out of Gulf Breeze, Florida, and it's the National Guard 10 Crows barbecue machine. Then it'll be Pat Wildfire out of Fairmont, West Virginia, in the Wildfire Engineering AMAC Suzuki. Then it'll be the 97 of Richard Colburn out of Northbrook, Illinois, Cincinnati region, the Sunshine Metals Nostendo you were talking about. And he's always one of the favorites of the corner workers and all of the volunteers here, because that car somewhere on it always has the greeting, "Thanks workers," and they appreciate that so much. Then it's going to be the number 65 of William Niemeyer out of Loveland, Ohio. As I said, Sensi Region, the Superior Equipment Solutions store. Then starting next in the 8th spot, 77, Michael Moulton out of Wilmington, North Carolina, the North Carolina region, the Young Racing Store Suzuki. Then the number 8, a gentleman who's already won a gold this weekend, and he is a 5-time gold medalist total. The number 12, Peter Shadowin out of West Palm Beach, Florida. That gold came in about as different a class as you can imagine, GT Light. So he's in a West chassis running the Suzuki power plant. Then the 07 of Thomas Kaufman out of Riviera Beach, Florida, in the Florida region. The Fab Man Road and Race Automotive Store with the Suzuki in the back. Then the number 6 is 03 Sherman Chow out of Palm Beach, Florida, in the store. And a little bit of an issue for Sherman here, but he's backing at it. Then Iverson, as we talked about. Then one of the most experienced guys here, Mike Reupert, in the number 7 Sunshine Metal Store Suzuki out of Hubertus, Wisconsin. He's a 2-time gold medalist. Then the 99 Lucian Pancia out of San Antonio, Texas. The Young Racing Newport Hills, Virginia store, Kawasaki. And then your front row on the outside, it is Greg Gyann out of Western Springs, Illinois, in the number 83 Guicor International Store Suzuki. He runs out of Chicago region. And on the pole, his 3rd pole, the defending champion, and he had it from pole last year at Indianapolis, 2 times a gold medal winner total. The number 8 of Tim Day Jr. out of Scottsdale, Arizona, runs out of San Francisco region in the Goodyear and Summit and Hawk Store Suzuki. And he had set a new track record in the qualifying, but that was nice and dry. That's out the window.
Don't think we're going to see those kind of speeds and not that kind of grip in here. I misspoke earlier. It wasn't 97 Colburn who's got the very odd car, the old sports racer. It's Pat Wildfire in the AMAC. You'll see him there just in front of that Radical of Robert Iverson. So yeah, the quick story on Iverson, his rough week started with a fire in his Ligier that he's running for a couple of years. That car had been on the pole a few times. Absolutely devastating fire. Car is a total loss. Was able to hook up with the local Radical group in here in Virginia. They've loaned him this car. They set the car up for rain, said if it was dry, it really wasn't going to run. But since it's wet, he's okay. He'll go out there. The rest of his story is he had a car fire a couple of years ago at Homestead, and just in that fire the other day, sort of all came rushing back to him, kind of flashbacks. So as if that wasn't enough, had a heart attack a year ago in the race car. So he's really just happy to be here. Says his wife just can't watch the coverage, so a little depressed on that, one less viewer. But maybe she'll be happy to see the result now that he's out there in that Radical, still piloting a car around here in the wet.
Absolutely, and a nice look there at Lucian Pancia. And yeah, I mean, that is overcoming so much just to be in the field here, but that's what the runoffs mean. Yep. You don't get a lot of opportunities necessarily, and you don't want to miss them. And this should be fascinating. The speed of these cars is extraordinary. They are blindingly fast in the dry in high-speed stuff because they just stick so incredibly well. We're going to see how it's going to play out here. It's 15 laps or 40 minutes in the run to the gold in Prototype 2, P2, here at the SCCA National Championship Runoffs. There's the green cone. They're in the acceleration zone. Let's see when your pole sitter, Tim Day, decides to go. He goes. We're green. And underway here. Again, Gyann up on the outside as they head down into turn 1. And that wide entry into 1 has been where a lot of people have been caught out. And you can see Tim Day just pinning it down around the inside. But Gyann willing to risk it a little bit, getting out. And oftentimes you get a nice run. You get on that outside of the track. He leads, but we've got 2 cars off, 1 spinning. And that's the 03 of Sherman Chow.
Yeah, Chow also had a bit of a rough week. He'll be happy to get going again. Already gone through 2 motors. He's borrowed one from the Gyans just to make this race. That right now he's only made it about half of 1 corner. But Greg Gyann, who loaned him that motor, is out in the front right now, able to take that outside line through 1 to get ahead of Tim Day.
Well, I think what may have happened there, based on what we've been seeing, Larry, is Tim Day went so far to the inside that Gyann didn't have to stay out in that slick braking zone. He could shift over a little bit, found that grip, and then got to the rain line around the outside of that corner. It paid off.
And about midway on the corner exit of 1, there's actually a pretty good grippy spot. The inside's pretty slick. The outside sometimes has some heavy standing water, but he was able to find that good grip down the line. But you can see he's comfortable out there already. as he's throwing this thing down around South Bend here on the opening lap. That's pretty impressive. We'll see if Tim Day's got something to respond with.
Well, and if you're near the front, you want to be as aggressive as you can on the start, because if you can make a move like Gyann did and get out front, you have clear visibility, and everybody else behind you is driving through your junk and the junk of the cars behind them that's coming off the back of that car, and it's ugly.
Yeah, open cockpit cars, you know, you're getting a face full of somebody's water. It's right up against your visor. So you can see right there, even down the back straight, he's stepping to the side. Really, at this point, just for visibility, so he can have a poke and a peek down the inside of where is the braking zone. A lot of drivers will say if they're too close, they have to just watch the edge of the track to see where their braking point is.
Yeah, it's crazy. And you look at the volume of water that's coming out from the underneath of these cars. You know, the way that they make their downforce, and the tunnel and the big diffuser back there. Once you hit that arrow point where that stuff kicks in, that spray just really launches up there. It's spectacular, but it's also really difficult to follow in.
Yeah, Tim Day and Greg Gyann, very experienced drivers in this field. Gyann now, I believe, in his 8th start. Tim Day in his 10th start. Day having won this class a couple of times. Greg Gyann got a win at Road America 2 years ago. So you've got a couple of the last champions here lined up with the 18, 20, and 21 champions kind of represented here in this front two. These guys know how to get it done.
Yeah, they do. And the guy sitting in third, Lucian Pancia, he was second at Indy last year in this class, was second at VIR in 19 when they ran here.
Yeah.
So he knows how to get around this track, but these are such radically different conditions here. There is Lucian, and you can see he's already dropped off from that lead duo to the tune of about 5 seconds. So, and I don't know whether that's performance related or whether that is something to do with visibility, but right now he's just not able to stay in touch with Gyann and Day.
Yeah, I don't know if he's just not as comfortable with his setup as the other guys are. There's a lot of setup to be done on these cars. And as you can imagine, they are full-on race cars with everything you can possibly do. So sometimes if you don't get the right setup, it's going to hurt your opportunities there. But you can see that spray just kind of really spitting out of the center of the back of that car. It's got pretty good aero, but even in these conditions, not able to do it. Up in front, though, Day not losing sight at all of Gyann. He seems, if anything, actually be closing up. I think he actually was about 9/10 quicker in the first sector, so Day seems to have found his groove here in the rain.
Yeah, it's just come up, come good. And the thing is, even in the rain, on rain tires, you still have to get temperature in that tire for it to really work. Not just and as I say that, he touches that painted curb, and you could see how slick that is, and around it went.
You could see it, you could hear it. The engine just took a huge rev, and now he may be high-centered in the grass. And obviously, these cars, very low ride height. Oh, and our Polesitter might not be able to get going again. If he can't, he's in a pretty precarious position. So you watch the replay here as he comes into this oak tree bend. He's on a pretty good line, but you watch him squeeze the gas as he thinks he's good and clear towards the exit. But look at the paint. Watch them just drive the left side of the car onto the paint, hits the gas, round he goes.
Yep, that unpainted first part of the curb, he was fine there. It wasn't until he got up on top where that paint was, and it went away. And the problem is, we just get word full course yellow because it's so easy for others to do exactly what he did there. And if he gets there, another car can, and they really don't have any option but to throw the full course caution here. And the good news is for Lucian Pancia and Mike Reupert in that group, they're going to gather it up. Oh, and somebody else off as well.
It's a white car. I know Sherman Chow's got a white car.
Yeah.
Not sure who else that could be down this order.
We'll have to wait and see until we can pick up a number. But
that's in the snake down there.
Yep, and it's easy to do it over there. I mean, this track, it's so serpentine in so many spots. So even if you found a rain line, you're going to have to cross it at some point and get back to the normal line to get back to the rain line in the next turn. So many things can happen here. But look at this. Peter Shadowin has moved up into the fourth spot here because of the problem with these cars. And Mike Reupert, most experienced guy probably in the field in these types of cars. He was racing in this class when it was DSR back in the day, and experience in these conditions pays huge dividends.
So I talked to Shadowin. He just picked up this car, I think about a year or so ago. Obviously, he's a 5-time champ in the GTL ranks and winning earlier this weekend in his GTL car. Very different type of car. He said he really hasn't done anything to his P2 car. This is really just as he bought it, stock power plant. Doesn't think he's got the power to run with these front runners because of the power, but maybe in these conditions doesn't either.
Well, that's it. I mean, you know, when you have a lot of power, it's easy to spin the wheels up, and if you're down on power a little bit, you used this term earlier in a race that I was watching, a little more elastic on the throttle. It's not so much an on-off switch. Here's the start, and there you can see down to the inside, David so far down, you can see Gyann just move over to that middle lane and then pop to that rain line.
Yeah, if anything, there's a bit of standing water in the exit. He pushed Day into it to be able to get the grip off of that. But you can see his Day doesn't go anywhere, just starting to feel it out. And just as he was getting into that groove, finds that paint at the exit, as we see it here, coming off of Oak Tree, and just catches the paint right there. And you can hear it on the original feed, the rev of the engines and those Hayabusa motors. Get the 1000cc in that one, and it just zings up to all the revs at the wrong time for him.
Spun it up, he did. And that is that's the scenario right now, is we're under a full course caution. A couple of cars needing to get cleaned up just a little bit here. So right now it's Greg Gyann leading, Lucian Pancia into the second spot, and Mike Reupert right now holding on to the bronze. And he's got a lot of medals here. He might just be adding to them when we come back to our coverage of P2 here at VIR.
Introducing the first ever Mazda CX-50.
Focus, guys. We're in a race to the finish, okay?
Here's where the rubber meets the road.
These initiatives move the needle, like, at all.
Well, let's shift gears a minute.
We're really kind of at the apex here.
We need to put the pedal to the metal. We need to nail those hairpin turns, cross that finish line, and take that checkered flag. Woo!
Hit the track with the world's largest motorsports calendar, track day insurance, and more. Haggerty. Let's drive together.
Why race? Because it's in our blood. A love of driving that pushes us as hard on the road as it does on the track. It's why we reinvented the Roadster and put a piece of it into every car we make. It's why we refine, rethink, and refine again. And it's why we'll always engineer to your heart's BPM, not simply an engine's RPM. Why race? Why indeed?
Welcome back to our coverage presented by Mazda of the SCCA Runoffs in their 59th annual running of the National Championships here at VIR in the Prototype 2 category. And there you see the Mazda pace car, the official pace car of the Runoffs for this season. And that is your field packing up just a little bit. And again, Gyann, Pancia, Reupert, your top guys, then Shadowin right there in fourth, Kaufman, everybody going to get bunched up. And you know, this gives an opportunity to a couple of guys, and we've been talking about Robert Iverson, and he was kind of way in the back, obviously, because of that change, and was dealing with massive spray issues and the like. But he might be in a good position to be able to do something here in that Radical. There it is.
Yeah, so maybe he's just getting comfortable with it. You know, he came into this week driving a Ligier, and here he is on race day Sunday, now driving a Radical that he hasn't driven. Again, it's a borrowed car, so maybe just starting to feel things out. This might have been exactly what the doctor ordered here for him, 4 laps in. But up at the front, to tell you that Gyann and Pancia running 1-2, they've got a lot of familiarity. These two have both shared podiums in the last couple of years, 2 out of the last 3 years, I think, that they have both been on the podium together. And so they know each other quite a bit up in there. The question is whether or not Mike Reupert, Peter Shadowin want to try and make a race out of this. You can see them there in that slightly darker yellow for Reupert and Shadowin in the blue one.
We're just getting word from race control. We're going green this time by, and that blue car is Peter Shadowin, and then right behind him is Thomas Kaufman. And keep an eye on those. And there's Iverson at the back. You can see that that radical, vastly different in look. It's a little taller, maybe not as wide, but at times, those cars have been very effective in wet conditions.
It's
here.
very heavy relative.
Yeah.
So the rest of this field, if you take a look at Gyann's car, I believe he's probably running the 1000cc with about something like a 1025 minimum weight, just over 1,000 pounds. Iverson's car, it's a 1.5 liter Hayabusa, still 1,500 pounds. It's 50% heavier than the car running at the front. Also, as Robert was telling me, the wheel and tire package of those things have got to be 30 pounds heavier each corner than the other ones are that you'd run on his normal Ligier car. So you've got heavy wheels and tires, a heavy car, bigger motor. Maybe not a bad combo for the rain. He just kind of needs to get his groove on. But a lot of different power plants up and down this field. You got a lot of the 1000cc's in this group, a couple of the 1350s. Shadowin's on one of them. Michael Moulton is on another one. And so with being a prototype, they get to try lots of different things.
And in the rain, oftentimes, a little bit of extra weight on the car is not a bad thing. It plants those loaded tires. I mean, it's still all about transferring weight, and if you've got more weight to transfer in the wet, sometimes that can generate more grip. So we'll see how that plays out here, Larry.
Yeah, you end up putting a lot more pressure on those tires to be able to pump that water away rather than hydroplaning off. And so that's the game. If there's enough rain, you really need to be pushing the water more than skipping across the top. As the rain goes down, lighter is better.
And you can see just how short these cars are. You couldn't even see Sherman Chow's car except between the guardrails. Is a good cleanup, and he was able to drive it into the pits. But we're anticipating going green. Lights are out on the Mazda safety car. So it'll be Greg Gyann right now in his store Suzuki out of Western Spring, Illinois, bringing them up to the green, with Pancia right behind him in the 99, the 7, the yellow car of Reupert, the blue car of Shadowin, and the black car of Kaufman. That is your top. And here we go. We're back to green. And wow, did Gyann nail that one. And Lucian just losing 4 or 5 car lengths just on the acceleration run. But look at that. Reupert absolutely losing touch with these guys. And Kaufman going around on Shadowin and actually almost closing up on the back of Reupert. Kaufman getting a great launch.
Yeah, Kaufman, they were working on his car yesterday. He's actually in the same paddock area there with Shadowin, working on that car. Found I think it was a head gasket leak and some other things they were still working on to try and fix up even as much as late as last night. So I'm sure that Shadowin probably not happy to watch his friend waving goodbye as he goes on by them there on the restart.
Absolutely. And but on the other side of it here is on that start, for Shadowin, I really feel for him in a way because he has, I'm sure, minimal experience of this car in the wet at all, and it's so vastly different from the car he drove, the GT Light car that he won the gold in. Even if that was in sketchy conditions, there's not going to be anything you can apply.
No, in fact, he did actually say that going back and forth between them is very interesting. It's helping him in his GT Light car because the higher speeds entry on this, and further looking ahead, you have to have more hand response to be able to control the car. When he jumps back in the GTL, his little CRX, it is a whole lot more time, as there's the 07 of Kaufman. Looks like he's there at turn 5.
Yeah, I wonder if he looped it and then stalled it. Now he's got it going again and is able to continue. But after making a great move and jumping up into the 4th spot, he's going to plummet down the field right now.
Yeah.
So we have a look there at Shadowin.
And to finish that thought about Shadowin, so he said jumping into the GTL car gives him a chance to everything slows down for him, and he ends up actually being able to be smoother on corner entries in the GTL car than if you weren't driving the prototype. The problem is when he jumps back in the prototype after the GTL, it's kind of the opposite effect. Everything comes up at him a little bit faster, and it's again like a learning experience every time he gets in. He said that in the future he may do a lot more seat time in that this prototype than he is currently in the GTL to try and really balance it the other way around and maybe try to actually make a run at it. He did say he's enjoying it at this point, though.
Well, in these cars, compared to that GT Light, the straights are a lot shorter. Because they're moving a lot. Wow, 99 Lucian Pancia. I saw your look, and I was thinking the same thing. He was so close to running it off at Hogpen.
Yeah, exactly. That Hogpen dirt comes up real quick, and he was saying hello to it on his way on by, but lucky for him, able to keep it on the pavement.
Wonder if he was like I was when I was racing, and I'd almost throw it off the track, and in my helmet I'm going, no. So
maybe followed by other 4-letter words in that phrase, but
well, exactly.
there may be a little bit of that.
Yeah, right as we cut away, you can see Lucian just lightening the rears up for just a second here. Saved it nicely as we work through now turn 3 up into turn 4. And boy, I tell you, there's that puddle right there. And again, Lucian, both of them, just under any kind of throttle, the back ends are stepping out.
And
Reupert's
7.
off.
Yep.
That was from third.
Let's see if he's able to get it going again there at the exit of 1. Let's watch those back tires, see if they spin at all as Colburn goes by.
Oh, you can see he's just
may
frustrated.
not be able to get it into gear there.
Yeah, I think, or it may have stalled.
Yeah, we'll give that a second to see if. Meanwhile, these guys are still in the green as they're now going through. Even at these raining conditions, look at the speeds that they're taking these climbing S's.
Yeah, and that is just so much downforce that these cars make. And you know, I used to get some grief for calling it artificial grip, but that's what it is because it's exceeding nature. You know, normal mechanical grip, but it's using air to create extra amounts of grip as it just forces the car down onto the track. And what that does, when you get into it, and that's the key, is if you have a car that's all built around aero and downforce, if you don't get into the speed where that kicks in, it could be absolutely horrible because they don't plan on there not being any aero, so it doesn't have a lot of mechanical grip, and that's what may be happening in spots here. We have another full course caution. I'm guessing that's for Reupert.
It probably is. He's, again, in that precarious position there just at the exit of 1. But you're absolutely right about how this downforce works. And that's why they make setup changes as they go to the rain. And one of those changes sometimes is to crank a little bit more wing into that, try to get more pressure. They also will soften the cars a bit to get them to lean over a little bit more, try and really get those tires to press harder into the rain and push that water away. But there's only so much you can do. These things are very, very twitchy and finicky, even in these wet conditions. These things are happiest on a nice, warm, dry day.
Yeah, and I mean, these cars are designed to be run because of that aero incredibly stiff. So there's only, you know, when you go to soften it up, there's probably only so much you can do, because if you don't, it's be dragging on the ground. And you don't want to have a lot of ride height on the car because you lose the aero effect. So the variables here make this really, really intriguing.
They really do. And these two guys, I tell you, for the mental state that you've got to be able to get yourself in to restart one of these races, very difficult for them. And look at them now having, you have the original race start, full course yellow, another race start, another yellow, and it starts to get into your head of kind of waiting for, are we going to actually make it to green, or how many laps are we going to get, what do I have to do? And for Pancia, maybe this is the best thing, because he was having trouble there finding grip and was losing ground to Greg Gyann out in front. So Lucian might be happy that it gives him a chance to kind of reset and pull back up and again start probably out there doing a little bit of recon for puddles right now.
And I was going to ask you a question here. I mean, both of these cars are WF1 chassis, but the noses are different. The second place car has a shark fin on it. The other one doesn't, of your leader, Gyann. Is that all stuff that the individual, once you buy the car, they're modifying it up and just being a little creative?
That's exactly what it is. Sure, the rules will dictate certain boxes and certain windows of things that you can't do in terms of wing height and all that. But once you're within that box, you can make things custom. So yeah, you can see Pancia. He's got that large fin from the air intake all the way back across the rear of the car, also running a longer end plate on the rear wing. And I think he's even got a slightly different front lip on that front splitter compared to, if you look at Greg Gyann, very small end plates on the rear wing. Probably not interested in as much drag as those would generate. But also very different. Doesn't have the long fin, shark fin coming across the back behind the air intake. So yeah, it's all about slight customizations again here in the prototypes, as long as they're within that box.
And those shark fins are primarily used, one, when you start to get a lot of yaw or slide in the car, is to try and stabilize it, but also if the car then wants to go up because of the aero catching underneath, it'll plane it out. And the splitters, they don't create by themselves a lot of downforce. The idea there is just to keep air from getting under the car, so that the tunnel or the diffuser can then create that low pressure area.
Yeah,
right?
if there's that way, the air under the car is even faster. That's the goal. Is you want to get that air accelerating underneath and really pull it to the ground. But it is fascinating between them, because these two are essentially the same kind of cars, but very, very different in how they choose to trim them out. Then you look at the third place car, Shadowin, in that West chassis. Very different from the other two. Much broader car, taller car, but he's also running the bigger motor in that car than the other guys are, so he gets to make up for it maybe with a few extra horsepower.
And then you've got the AMAC, the old the old sports racer. That Pat Wildfire, by the way, with all of the events there, is up into 5th.
Yeah.
Doing a really, really nice job. Iverson has the Radical up into the 7th spot right now. So some of these cars that we're having. Now, the interesting thing is here, obviously, Tim Day, if they got him running, is going to be way, way down the order. But he's going to be flying out there, you would think, as would Sherman Chow and Rupert, way at the back, though.
It looks like Day's down a couple laps, but if he's out there, he could certainly showing us what that pace could be. But looking at cars, like you mentioned, Wildfire and Iverson in the slightly different chassis than all these other stores that are out there, this is one of those days in these conditions where peak horsepower isn't everything. Maybe having an undersized or an overweight tire isn't a terrible thing to have. Having just a little less drag and not as good a air, maybe not a terrible thing if to be able to slipstream through these heavy air conditions. So you could see, look at there, behind Shadow, one of the blue car, you've got Niemeyer, another one of the stores, and then there's Wildfire in that sports racer, just that single element rear wing hung up high. I talked to him earlier this week. He just purchased that car not too long ago. He's got some plans for it in the long run, but that is clearly, at this point, a work in progress for him. But very cool to see look how short the wheelbase is compared to some of these longer, lower cars.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously it sits up a lot higher as well. So here we go, going back to green. And Greg Gyann going to be leading him to the line. Will Lucian be able to stay a little bit closer? And not really. Gyann just giving it immediately, and Lucian not quite able to go. Shadow in there in 3rd. And look at Wildfire. He's going to try and come up around the outside of Niemeyer, and that would give him 4th here, going around Niemeyer in one of those stores. Does he make it work? He does. What a move by Wildfire. And now he's going to try and set off after Peter Shadow in that blue car up front. But what a run in the old AMAC D Sports Racer, essentially. He is flying.
That's a whole lot of risk for the reward that he got to take the dry line down into 1. Oh, and look at the twitch coming there from Niemeyer. Maybe he is having trouble getting the water pumping in his tires, and Wildfire able to take advantage of that. But very treacherous on that dry line going into 1. But Wildfire is saying, well, what's the problem, guys?
Yeah, I'm liking this right now. And then there into your screen comes Iverson, who now is up into 6th in that Radical chassis. And then a couple of the cars behind, Michael Moulton, Richard Colburn as well, as they come through here. There is Iverson. Next car will be Moulton. And then it is Colburn in that yellow and black entry that he's running, the Nastendo. And obviously look at this, and this is a lot of this visibility issue, folks, is condensation on our lenses. These cameras have been out in this.
We do that for effect, so you get the same effect that these drivers have. This is about how good their visibility is. There's little dots in the distance, and that's the race car you're chasing, just like it looks like on our screen. Oh boy, and that's
straight off, and I believe that is Niemeyer.
Yes, I think it is. The same one that was having troubles there through 3, now has his troubles in a braking going into 11.
Yep, and you wonder if he didn't have a little bit of a wiggle coming out of South Bend and then dropped it off. Let's take a look here. Oh, he went for he dropped his lefts into the grass early, and you do that, there's nothing home in terms of any kind of grip, let alone decel. And he was very lucky, that huge amount of runoff at that spot of the track, that spot on the track, it snapped around on him. But he didn't hit anything.
And Sherman Chow now has parked it, just trying to get to the Patriot course there. And he has stopped, and we're going to go full course yellow again.
Yeah, boy, it's been a tough race for Sherman, hasn't it?
Yeah, and after going through a couple of motors this week, he is just sort of beside himself, was super happy that the Gyans were able to loan him a motor. Hopefully the motor is still okay in that car. Fingers are crossed for Sherman. But yeah, he's in another one of those precarious positions. This should be a pretty quick pull once they can get to him. You could almost push him out of the way.
Yeah, and Sherman is a former medalist, not a gold, but he had a really impressive silver in 2016 in this class when we last raced at Mid-Ohio. And this is his 7th start in the run-up, so I'm sure he's really frustrated at this point. And for Greg Gyann, you got to be thinking, he's been getting these great restarts, but he has to be inside that car going, come on, I mean, how many times am I going to have to do this? And survive a restart here, but he has been absolutely picture perfect on those restarts.
I've seen this before where our leader is able to execute a couple of restarts. We had this last year, in fact, I believe it was in the FE2 race where the leader was able to execute a couple of great restarts, but the last restart didn't work out so well for him. Maybe Pancia can sort of drudge some of that back up and say, I've seen this before. I know I can make a move at some point. And he's watched now a couple restarts behind Guy, and he knows the tendencies. He knows when he launches. He knows that he goes middle of track. So maybe Lucian Pancia can say, oh, if I can go just a hair earlier, and maybe aim further inside or try a different line. Maybe even try the line that Wildfire did to the outside. Risk reward could be there, but for Pancia, he's seen enough of these. Maybe now it's time to start thinking which move to make.
Well, any savvy race driver, you're absolutely right, is going to be studying everything that's going on.
Always collecting data.
Yep. Where's the weakness? Where's my strength relative to that weakness? Where can I pounce? What can I do? And now they're just going to have to tiptoe around the EV crews here as they're working on Sherman Chow's machine. As we are working right now, lap 9 of 15. More importantly, we have 25 minutes gone in this, actually 26 minutes. So we, with this caution, we may well be now having this tilt toward a timed event here. As we said, it's 15 laps or 40 minutes, and we may be tipping the counter right now into the time.
Very, very likely as we're watching there. Iverson in the background. Looks like Niemeyer able to return to the track. He's just behind him as they're gathering up to the field. We'll see how quickly the crews can get Sherman out of harm's way. But yeah, I can't wait to see this restart. See if Pancia tries something different. He's done this now 2 times in just the last couple minutes. Kind of all look the same, where Gyann just launches at just past the green cone and then heads down center of track. Let's see if Pancia tries something unique, and if nothing else, maybe a little bit of a bob and weave, a little bit of a head tilt, something to kind of throw him off.
Well, yeah, and I get it. Obviously, visibility is an issue. So, on the one hand, he's going, I don't want to be too close because I'm blinded. Well, then as you come down the hill, maybe he'll shift over to a side and try and give himself so he could be at least a little bit closer. And then, should Gyann cover, then he could pop to the outside.
Yeah,
I mean,
maybe
all
he can use the spray to his
options.
advantage. As much as he can't see, I'm not sure that he can be seen. Remember, these prototype cars don't have the biggest mirrors in the world. If he can stay close to him, maybe hide in that spray just long enough to make Greg Gyann think and try and predict, maybe he can pop the other way and have an opportunity.
Well, we're about to find out. Just getting word from race control. Green this time by. So we've had a race start. We've had 2 restarts. So this will be our 4th start, essentially. And let's see how this is going to play out. Technically, we will, as we come around, we'll be working lap 10 when we get the green of 15. As I said, I think we're going to end up more on a time count on this one. But it's going to be fascinating to see how it plays out at the front. And are we going to see Wildfire try and make a move on Shadowin and take that? How cool would that be if one of the old AMAC D Sports racers ends up on the podium?
I would absolutely love to see that. I'd love to see the variety. I'd love to people to see trying different things out here. Also, it looks like the wind may have picked up just a little bit out there. Look at the spray. As soon as it comes up, it tends to head towards the west side there. See if that makes any bit of difference for visibility for Pancia coming down the front straight.
And not that I have anything. I'd love to see Peter Shadowin end up with a bronze in his debut run at the runoffs in P2. That would be a pretty fabulous story as well. It's just so much that would be cool if things play out. But here we go. And look at Lucian. Looks like he's definitely closer. Now he moves to the other side. That was what he wanted to do, and we're green, and he's a lot closer. He may have played that well, but look at Gyann. He just gets enough of a launch because he makes the decision when to pull the trigger in a way. Lucian now looking to the inside, and here comes Wildfire once again. Up and around the outside. Is he going to make it work? No! Too wide that time, too much speed, and he is off. Now he's going to do a couple of snap turns, so the Cinderella story may be ending there, but look at Lucian, way quicker than he was to Greg Gyann at any other point here. And he is now saying, let's do it. I'm up on the wheel, let's go.
Yeah, for Wildfire, unfortunately, to the well too many times there. It was a good risk and maybe a reward of the first try. This time, it broke a little bit too late. But yeah, Pancia seems to have learned something. You saw him coming around NASCAR 3, able to finally get the power down. The last restart, he was tail sliding all over the place and was able to kind of stick this time with Gyann. So maybe Pancia happy to finally have another one of these yellows that gave him a chance to pull back up. But look at the gap now as the speed entering the climbing S's for Gyann. He barely looks like he's lifting, if at all.
Yeah, Gyann, I mean, once he gets into that 3, 4, 5 complex and drops the hammer coming out of 6, he just flows more speed through there, and it's working for him now up into Oak Tree. And again, it's technically turns 11 and then 12 is the Oak Tree corner, but you drive it as one corner, just a big, long double apex arc almost. And Lucian a little bit closer this time. But here's the thing, when you get down this long back straight, as they call it, Madison Avenue here, the more speed that builds, the more spray is pumped up into the air. and for anybody following, it becomes even more difficult to see.
Yep.
And there you see an example of it.
Pancia again trying to find visibility, peeks to the right, just a little bit out of the spray, going to the left now for the braking zone. But Gyann's been very, very quick all the way down that straightaway. Seems to have good visibility because he doesn't have the spray in front of him, so he can pick and choose his lines as they throw these little prototypes with these little 1-liter motors down these hills and try to find some grip for him. A little bit of a twitch there, though, for Gyann this time around Hog Pen.
That's the first time we've really seen him step out. There was one other time on a restart at one where the back slid a little bit, but he knows that obviously Lucian is a little closer than he has been in the past, and so Gyann maybe trying to pick that pace up just a little bit. This lap's not going to, well, tell us much. A 2:17 by Gyann, a 2:17.8, fastest lap of the race, and getting confirmation from race control now officially a timed race.
Yep, as would have needed 5 laps to go. Probably now maybe only going to get 4. See how this goes. There's a good shot of Peter Shadowin as he came around Hog Pen. But it's the one behind him that we're watching for. A big twitch there out of the 07 Kaufman. And then the twitch turns into a full 360 Danny Sullivan style.
And wow, yeah, it did. Just a spin and go.
Oh, and more spins. This time the 7 of Reupert. He's going to back it off the track there at the exit of 1. That's a tough hill to climb. We've seen this tried before.
That's the same spot he was
it
before, I think. A little bit of a different angle there. And I understand, to the one point, backing it off when it's blinding spray and you know there are cars coming at you on the track, get it off the track. But obviously when you're ending it with that attitude, it's really tough to get in this wet grass, and then underneath it is just mud essentially now, to be able to get that car moving again. We'll see if he's able to get it moving by himself at this point, as we are checking back in with some good battling going on here. There you see Iverson, so Moulton and Niemeyer having a really nice scrap here for the final spot in the top 5. Michael Moulton there in that blue store with Niemeyer right behind him as well.
He's trying to be able to see through the head. I'm trying to be able to see the same thing. See if we can pick these guys out between Niemeyer and Moulton. Niemeyer had trouble at this corner earlier and locked it up, gone straight off. Maybe he's learned his lesson this time. Much smoother entry.
Yeah, a little more circumspect there. So we're getting a report that we got a full course caution once again for Reupert. And again, when you're back down, you can see that slope. These cars run so low to the ground, and on this wet grass with the mud underneath it, it's almost impossible to pull forward and to drive off. So yet another full course caution. I believe this is our 4th.
I think so.
I think so, yeah.
This is crazy, but I get it. These conditions and as wet as this 3rd day of rain here at VIR has just got this tire off. Anywhere off track is just so waterlogged. And these cars, even though they're rain tires, they're still pretty slick tires, and just absolutely no ground clearance. These things just sink right in. So now with just 6:14 left on the clock, these guys have to go around at least once under a yellow. If it's 2 laps under a yellow, it's going to be awfully close to finishing this way.
Yeah,
so we'll see what happens when they come around and get gathered up here by the safety car.
And it is really treacherous out there when Mike Reupert, with his level of experience, is just plain struggling to keep the car on the track. It is pretty diabolical here.
Yeah.
And obviously, you would think Lucian is going, no, I don't really want it to end under caution. I'd like one more crack at this. But he has not been able to figure out the combination to unlock a pass of any sort thus far on Greg Gyann.
He seemed, at least this last restart, to figure out a little bit of Sector 1, and then suddenly they came through this part here. Maybe he had trouble getting the power down coming around 5 through the snake, because that's where Gyann just took off. And so Lucian, if he's going to get another shot at it, needs to figure this part out. Got to get the power down and try and stick with Gyann through this part of the track. Otherwise, yeah, Gyann's just going to walk away. But they better see a safety car here soon, or we might be seeing the end of the race. But we'll let race control. They have been trying to finish races green if possible, so we'll see if they're able to do something here, as this is the last race of the weekend. 25 races done. This is race 26.
And they got Reupert out. They had disconnected the toe strap, and then he signaled, no, I need it again. I think maybe he needs it to have him pull him and to bump start that just a little bit. And I'll tell you what, the other guy who's probably sitting on kind of pins and needles here is Peter Shadowin. because, again, his first runoff in this class, he's maybe positioned for a medal. And he, too, has had to survive these restarts, and it hasn't been easy on him.
Actually, not his first. He did run at Road America in 2020, where he finished 7th in this class. So he's been in this before, but his time, his effort, he is actually a car chassis builder, so he's got customers. They come first because, they pay. And so sometimes you don't get to work, and now you've got 2 race cars to split your time across. He's been putting his time into the CRX, or as much time as he could afford to there, and that paid off with the GTO gold medal. And but here for the P2 car, maybe not as much. It's just a car that drives. Right now, he's driving it consistently. Who knows? If we are going to go green, it sounds like we will. Maybe he's got a chance to do something on these last couple laps.
Absolutely. We just got confirmation from race control. It will be a green, then a white, then a checker. So 2 laps. And it's all going to be a matter of when the flashers, keep an eye on the flashers there on that Mazda. They just went out, it looked like. So here we go. So 2 laps, basically, is what we are being told now. 2 laps to the end. And what can Pancia do to figure out a way by Gyann, if anything, here? This is his last opportunity, at least in terms of a restart. And I really think he needs to get the jump, get around Gyann, because once Gyann gets into turn 4 and 5, he just checks out through the snake. So
if nothing else, if he can get next to him going into left hook or something and just throw his line off, maybe make a race out of this thing going up the hill. But we've seen already he had a better restart the last time. He's had lots of tries, had lots of practice. Let's see if he can apply some of that here on what's probably our last restart.
And that quick spin and continue by Thomas Kaufman. He never lost that 4th spot. Now he gets the field packed right back up again. Opportunity for him. Here we go. And Lucian right there again. But as you see, once again, Gyann, he gets on the throttle and immediately gets 4 or 5 car lengths. And that's just making it really tough. Here comes Kaufman. That black car going to think about something around the outside of Shadowin's blue West chassis. Can't get anything done there. It's tiptoe time around turn 1 and 2 here as they then make their way up into turn 3. And it's in this 3-4 complex when we normally have been seeing Gyann able to open it up. Lucian right there, really applying the pressure. Big snap there, but it didn't really limit his forward momentum too much. But here's where he's got to find a way to stay with a very quick Greg Gyann.
I don't know about that. He just had a big twitch there as the 65 of Niemeyer spins again. I don't know if he'll be able to get going again. I think, where's he on the inside of 3? But we'll get back to that in a minute as our leaders are now heading towards the climbing S's. And it did look like Pancia not able to get the power down coming around 5. Just a little bit of a twitch. Gyann's much more smooth around there. I also wonder if these guys have different gearing, and that may be part of why Gyann's so quick on those restarts. He's got the right gear for it. That looks like the 07 of Kaufman stranded there.
So a couple of cars off once again here, and Gyann doing what he does once he gets into that turn 5, 5A, 6 complex, eases away from Lucian Pancia here. Pancia a bit closer here, and it's just a matter of now, can he get a really stout run down this backstretch here? And then Shadowin now finds himself with Kaufman's off in a lonely 3rd, and for Shadowin, I'm guessing that he'll probably take that. He'll say, yeah, that'll work for me here right now. That's a podium, that's a medal here, and here we go. Here comes Greg Gyann down through the roller coaster one last time. He's got that margin built up again, just a bit over Lucian Pancia. And it's going to be interesting to see here. We've got a couple of cars off. If they were both able to continue, we'll know, because it'll just be a white flag at the start-finish line. And here we come, heading toward what should be the white flag. Greg Gyann up and over that little rise, heading toward the start stand. Stretching that margin a bit over Pancia. Here we go. They go by that stand so fast, I couldn't see if there was a white out or not. I'm guessing there was.
You look at it, all the way on the left, on that dry line, under braking, almost all the way to the left. There is the white standing.
All right, so they're letting him run to the end here. And Gyann, in that 1 lap alone, 2.4 seconds essentially. He's just got it pretty dialed here, and a lot of that's visibility for for Lucian. That's really tough to have a lot of confidence when you're blinded.
And he just looks like right about here, he's able to just like a rocket ship, just launch this thing. No twitch, no slide. See if he gets through the snake here. Look at that, the car just like it's on rails. Oh, he's got to lift a bunch here as the 07 of Kaufman stranded there just at the edge of the track at the Snake.
Yeah, I think Kaufman was trying to re-enter, and guess what? Got it high-sided just that little bit where the pavement and then the grass tilts down and away. It's not much there, but it's enough with these cars that run so low. And when that happens, with the wet on the grass and the dirt and everything, those rears just don't get any bite, and you just start to spin. So,
well, Greg now on what should be his final trip around the old oak tree spot. Lucian doing everything he can to try and get a runoff here and maybe just give himself a chance, put a bit of pressure on Greg on their final trip down Madison Avenue.
It's a long, long run as it climbs, it drops, it climbs a little bit, and then they fall off the planet heading down into the roller coaster. And a big, big margin back to Shadowin. And Shadowin, in that one lap alone, about 8 seconds that he was off. But again, I'm sure he has zero significant experience in the wet in that car. And I think he's going to be delighted with a medal of any kind here.
I think he will for sure.
Too, yeah.
These guys up front are probably happy to see something other than a full course yellow to finish this race. And certainly for Gyann, who has probably seen his share today. That's more in one day than you might see in a whole season. It's a full perverted number of yellows out here.
It truly is. And here he comes from second on the grid to a gold medal for Greg Gyann, matching the one he got 2 years ago at Road America. He is a two-time gold medalist at the runoffs, and you got to give it up for him as Pancia comes through and claims the silver. And here comes Peter Shadowin. What a wonderful story. A gold medal in GT Light, and then steps into about as different a car as you can imagine and brings home a medal, a bronze in Prototype 2. But let's give it up a little bit for Greg Gyann here. He had to, on the opening start, he was pressuring Tim Day, got Tim Day to step up, get that tire onto that paint, snapped it around. Then he had to survive 3 restarts and did every one of them beautifully.
Oh, the mental capacity, the mental toughness you need to have to go through restart after restart after restart is intense. You've got to be just cold. You're going to be cold-blooded in there and just be able to attack that green as soon as you see it and just continue to go and not allow any advantage to the one behind you. He did that over and over and over again with perfection. A great, great race there for Greg Gyann.
And Robert Iverson, who was up in the top 5 for a little bit, ends up. We're going to take a look and make sure where he comes through, but I think he got slipped back to the 6th spot. But still, considering how everything was going for him, bringing it home in the top 6 in a borrowed car. And of course, when you're in a borrowed car, you're never driving 10/10ths because you want to return that car to those people.
He was so grateful to be able to have that car, to drive that this week. Yeah, you can be for sure he wasn't going to put a toe off anywhere.
Yep, so it's Gyann, Pancia, Shadowin in the medals, Moulton and Colburn round out your top 5. Iverson, Niemeyer, Wildfire, who was really racy and then had that unfortunate off. Thomas Kaufman, who had a couple of spins there as well. And then Reupert, who had an eventful race, as did Sherman Chow, Tim Day, et al. Here. So can't wait to hear the discussions down when they talk to Hayward here with just the conditions out there, all the restarts, all the drama they had to endure here as we take a look at the unofficial results.
Yeah, we're going to have some exhausted drivers and some soaking wet suits. These guys probably just gained about 30 pounds of water in their suits, especially probably Lucian Pancia sitting in that spray behind Greg Gyann the entire race. Yeah, he's just taking a shower. Maybe a nice long soak in a hot tub tonight for him.
What's the over/under on Gyann taking his victory lap? We've seen a couple of the open wheel people, open cockpit cars, this week go, nah, I'm fine.
For a guy who's been on the podium now 4 years in a row, 2 of those with championships, maybe he'll say maybe not this year, but then again, he'll be the last car on track for the runoffs if he does.
Well, that's a really good point. He gets to do that. And then they head to the podium where the champagne will actually feel warm, probably. And they'll enjoy that here as this rest of this field continues on around here at the runoffs here in Prototype 2. What an interesting weekend it's been, folks. If you haven't been with us for the whole thing, on Friday we literally had almost hurricane force winds here come through. We had rain that was absolutely straight sideways, wind gusts up over 50 miles an hour. It was brutal. Yesterday, the track had rained in the morning, then it dried up for the most part, but it was chilly. And then today we've had this pretty much all day long. It just got heavier as the day progressed.
Yeah, but for these guys, it's just difficult conditions, as you can tell by the number of spins, the number of cars that go in the grass. Treacherous conditions in a prototype car, but this guy here drove all through it without putting a toe wrong the entire way.
Yeah, he really did a brilliant job here, and he's going to climb out and have a chat with our Hayward Wagner, who, we've been talking about all the people we should give kudos to. I think Hayward's one of them.
Maybe a little bit.
He's been down there in that rain and that weather for
right.
every one of these races, doing an absolutely great job, giving us great insights before the race starts and giving us great interviews after it's over, and it's about that time. Hayward?
Gentleman, Greg Gyann comes in, asks him if he wants his victory lap, thinks for about a millisecond, says, no, I've had enough laps. But for the battle that was, you don't look a whole lot worse for the wear. How's driving this car around in these conditions?
Well, it's not a great car in the rain, but we had plenty of time to sit around and rest, so I feel like I really didn't do too much work. I don't know if I could have taken one more restart, but, we managed to come out, so we're good. The car was great, and I knew it was going to be a battle of attrition, so we just tried to keep it going, best we could.
Looks like a bit of a last-minute tire decision for you.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, we have been running the Goodyear tires all year, and they're really, really good tires, so shout out to Goodyear for making great tires. We just happen to have the Hoosier radials that we knew what they were like, and, like everybody, watching the weather, and, it became pretty apparent about an hour before the race that this is what we were going to run, so.
Well, congratulations to you, another gold medal here at the Runoffs.
Thank you very much.
I'm sure you got a few people to thank.
Of course, my family, my wife, my father, my kids, Ella and Johnny, all the sponsors who have helped us out, Goodyear and Hoosier in this case. I'm sure I'm going to be forgetting a ton of people. John O'Connor, our crew guy, who was solo this weekend and ran 2 cars by himself. So pretty amazing. And all the other people who have supported us over the years and all people watching at home, including my mom.
Oh, you got that one in just in time. Well, congratulations on the gold. We'll send you to the podium and see if we can bring our second place finisher up. How much spray did you absorb in that race?
Pretty much. I think I swallowed all the rain on the racetrack. It was tough. It was so tough. Water got into my electronics, so as soon as they dropped the green flag, I couldn't downshift, so I had to use the clutch, and but luckily, I'm here, and I'm happy.
Well, congratulations on the silver, and we're going to get to the bronze in just a moment.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Guys, we've been doing this for 3 days.
Hayward directing from pit lane. You got to love it here, bringing him over here.
Peter's used to getting golds. He's getting a bronze now.
Peter, they're hypothesizing upstairs that the reason that we're struggling to get the interviews done is you don't know how to do this from third.
No, I don't. That was the most exciting and terrifying thing at the same time. I've never driven an open cockpit car in the rain before, much less that one, which I've been, tinkering around in a class I probably have no business being in for the past 3 years, and son of a gun if it didn't work out.
Well, congratulations on another runoff podium, a bronze to go with the gold earlier in the week.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, one heck of a runoffs for him, and obviously he was one of the guys that we knew was going to be a top medal contender in GT Light, but in this category it was like, well, he's out here, he's learning, he's practicing with it, but what a job he did.
Yeah, absolutely. Great job there. The veteran knows how to keep it on the track and keep fighting all the way to the end.
But Greg Gyann, once again, just surviving all those restarts, doing an absolutely exceptional job as we are wrapping up our coverage for the 2022 and 59th running of the SCCA's National Championship Runoffs, this for Prototype 2. What an amazing weekend in so many ways it has been. And Larry, absolutely great job as always. A pleasure. Tom O'Gorman, also in the analyst chair. John Phippen sharing the play-by-play with me and Hayward Wagner down there in the elements for every one of these. Just an absolutely superb job. So big thank you, and with that we are going to bid you farewell from VIR and our race for the gold in Prototype 2. Congratulations to Greg Gyann. We'll see you next year.